a tale of the tiny village in the heart of a lush, emerald valley. Nestled amidst rolling hills and ancient trees lay a small, quaint village named Willow Creek. It was a place where the pace of life was as gentle as the meandering river that gave the village its name. The air was filled with the scent of blooming wildflowers, and the cheerful chirping of birds echoed through the village streets. Among the villagers lived a man named Elias. He was a simple soul, content with his modest life. His days were filled with the rhythms of the land, tending to his small farm with care and patience. His hands were calloused from years of labor, but they were gentle when they held the soil or guided the young plants. In the evenings, when the sun dipped below the hills and the sky turned a shade of purple, Elias would gather with his neighbors around the village bonfire. There, stories and laughter would fill the night, mingling with the crackling of the fire and the occasional burst of music from an old fiddle. Elias was known throughout the village for his kindness and generosity. He was always willing to lend a helping hand to those in need, be it assisting a neighbor with their harvest or comforting a friend during difficult times. His warm smile and gentle nature made him a cherished presence in Willow Creek, and people often said that the village was a little brighter because of him. One day, a stranger arrived in Willow Creek. His name was Kaelan, and he was a traveler seeking a place to rest. The villagers welcomed him warmly, curious about the tales he might bring. Elias, ever hospitable, offered Kaelan a place to stay, and the two quickly became friends. Kaelan was a man of many tales, and in the evenings he would regale the villagers with stories of distant lands, bustling cities, and exotic adventures. He spoke of towering mountains that touched the sky, vast plains that stretched endlessly, and strange creatures that roamed the wild. As Elias listened to Kaelan's stories, a longing stirred within him. He had always been content with his simple life, but now he wondered what it would be like to see the world beyond the familiar confines of Willow Creek. With Kaelan's encouragement, Elias decided to embark on a journey of his own. It was not an easy decision, for it meant leaving behind the comfort of his home, the friends who had become like family, and the familiar faces he saw every day. But sometimes the heart yearns for more, and so, with a small pack on his back and a hopeful heart, Elias set off into the unknown. His journey took him through towering mountains, where the air was thin and crisp, and across vast plains, where the wind sang a lonely song. He ventured into bustling towns, where the streets were alive with color and sound, and through quiet forests, where the only company was the rustle of leaves and the whispers of the wind. Elias encountered many strange and wonderful things on his journey. He met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories to tell. There were merchants with tales of far-off markets, shepherds who spoke of the stars, and sailors who had seen the edge of the world. Through his adventures, Elias learned much about himself and the world around him. He discovered that there was beauty and wonder to be found in every corner of the earth, and that the greatest treasures were not gold or jewels, but the friendships he made and the moments he shared. And though he missed his home and the familiar faces of Willow Creek, he also realized that the greatest adventures were often the ones that took us beyond our comfort zones. The world was vast and full of surprises, and he was grateful for every new experience, even the challenging ones. In the end, Elias returned to Willow Creek a changed man. He had seen the world, experienced new things, and grown as a person. But he had also come to appreciate the simple joys of his home, the warmth of the bonfire on a cool evening, the sound of laughter shared among friends, and the peace that came from a day well spent. And so, he settled back into his life in the tiny village, grateful for the journey he had taken and the lessons he had learned along the way. Willow Creek was still the same, but Elias saw it with new eyes. He understood now that the world was not just out there, beyond the hills, but also right here, in the small acts of kindness, the familiar smiles, and the gentle, unhurried rhythm of life. And so, every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a shade of purple, Elias would gather with his neighbors around the village bonfire, sharing stories and laughter, just as he always had. And sometimes, when the fire was low and the night was still, Elias would share his own tales of mountains and plains, of distant lands and new friends, of the world he had seen and the home he had found. And the villagers would listen, their eyes wide with wonder, and they would smile, knowing that no matter how far he had traveled, Elias had always carried a piece of Willow Creek with him, and it had brought him back home,